and gentlemen, welcome back to Sedona International Film Festival 25. We'd like to thank Digitech, Black Magic Design, and the Sedona Rouge for being our sponsors this year in the media room. And we have a really great filmmaker with us and a great film. Introduce yourself in the film, please.
Hi, yes. So I'm Christy Herring, here from the Bay Area in California. I'm here with the film Bias, which is about unconscious bias, its origins and its impacts. And I'm the producer and editor of the film.
I had the pleasure of watching this movie, and it was incredibly eye-opening. And your main subject that's going through all the testing, I could see the disappointment in herself in her own unconscious bias. Do you feel all of it is just a learned behavior passed down from generation to generation?
That's a great question. It's such a complex issue, bias. And the main character who you follow throughout the film is actually the director, Robin Hauser.
Yes.
So it took a long time to sort of reach the decision to include her in the film. She was not somebody who wanted to be central in the film. But there's so many questions that are so personal when you are talking about bias and thinking about where it comes from and how do we change our outlook and what are the impacts of our behaviors, not just our intentions, but the impact.
Yes.
It is very personal, and so it made sense to include some of her questioning in the film. So I don't have a final answer. I think it's something that we have to keep paying attention to and keep looking at from all of those angles in terms of the biological angle and the learned cultural angle as well.
This is an interesting subject. You bring up a lot of questions and a lot of evidence to point to truth. So let's look at the trailer and get everybody up to speed.
Great.
Implicit bias.
Implicit bias.
Implicit bias?
Implicit bias, which means unconscious bias.
What is unconscious bias?
All of the horrible things that we do to each other that we pretend we don't do.
I feel like everyone has a bias, no matter skin color.
There are countless biases that affect all of us. I wanted to explore unconscious bias and how it relates to gender and race. Where does it come from? What is its impact? And is there anything we can do to change it?
We evolved over millions of years to have the kind of brains that we have today. To be suspicious of people who are different from us. We should ask ourselves, is that useful in the modern world?
You as a neighbor on Nextdoor don't create one of these posts thinking, I'm about to stereotype an entire race.
I would like to not have to scan my neighborhood for who's watching me and thinking I'm a threat.
Your data suggests a moderate automatic association for harmless objects with white Americans and weapons with black Americans.
Objective quantitative studies show that men and women both perceive women different and lesser.
The news about toxic culture, workplaces saturated with sexual harassment and pay inequality, is relentless.
I have this sense that if I fail, it'll be like, well, you see, this is why we don't invest in women.
When you're standing across the table from the people who are writing your checks telling you that you don't deserve this, that's hard because you're literally putting your body on the line.
Bias at its core is a survival heuristic. You can have that gut feeling. It just has to be based on something that actually matters.
We tend to think about our own behavior as somehow more fair and free of bias than it is.
We're concerned about bias being introduced into AI. It's already there because we're the one teaching AI.
Trying to understand what is at the base of some of my perceptions and judgments, that's what led me on this journey.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask the big question. What do you want people to take away from this?
Well, that's a great question. We talked a lot about what sort of solutions to include in the film, and ultimately the solutions are very situationally based. So we didn't want to give sort of an instructional, so it's not that. Don't worry. But I think the biggest takeaway is to look inside, is really to think about the impact of our actions as separate from our intentions. I mean, for me, that was really, really a big takeaway. And just that it's personal. There's an enormous amount that we can do as individuals in terms of diversifying our sort of cultural influences and, changing up maybe who and how we're spending our time and trying to get some different ideas in there. And also slowing down our thinking is a really big one, especially when making big decisions around things like hiring and when you're literally choosing between people in these important situations, slowing down that thinking, even giving yourself a checklist of things to remember. Don't focus so much on, did they go to my university? There are these easy things that are very human. It's in our brains to want to connect with people and to want to help people. I think that was a big takeaway for me as well. But just to remember that sometimes those instincts lead us to a result that doesn't match our original intention or our values. So we want to keep monitoring that and think about, don't be afraid to look at that outcome and think about, does that really match what I wanted to happen? Yeah.
Right. Were there any surprises for you in this film? Was there a big aha that, blew you away in the evidence?
Gosh, I guess yes and no.
Right.
Yes and no. Some of the research that we learned around law enforcement, I think there wasn't one single aha around that, except that it's so complex. And that a lot of work is being done and we need to keep doing more. Even though I said we don't have a lot of solutions in the film and the solutions are really situational, what is sort of universal is that slowing down, that willingness to have a, kind of openness in how we look at our actions and our decision making. And to believe in the good intentions, in others. So I think the folks we worked with in Spokane, Washington, are really deep in the research with law enforcement, working very closely all over the country with doing trainings. And it's fascinating what they're doing. And the data is upsetting. Everybody agrees about that. But the work they're doing is really making change.
It is making a difference. And I did like that there were a lot of change-making opportunities using technology and going through training that's completely different than anything we've ever seen before.
It's true. I think change is wanted. That's another takeaway that I really had. That happened for me. But in terms of every community that we were looking at, change is really wanted, whether it's companies or law enforcement or individuals or, folks in Barcelona who are, doing this research. People care about this. And so the more we can look at it, the more we can throw all these ideas in the pot and just keep trying to work together to improve.
Well, I know that you got into the festival. You got the call from Pat, right? How was that?
So I didn't actually get the call from Pat. So I, as the producer and editor, I hear things. I'm not always the first call, so my call was from Robin Hauser, who was the director, who really wanted to be here, but she had long-standing other engagements this weekend, so I get to be here, which is fabulous for me. I'm so excited. So I was just thrilled. I love Sedona. I've been here before. Have some friends in the area, so this is fantastic. And what a long-standing festival with an excellent lineup year after year.
Year after year? Well, we want to say good luck with your screener. How can the people in the Webiverse out there keep up with this film? Is there a website that they can go to or social media?
Absolutely. First of all, come out to the festival, come to the screening, and just come to all the screenings of the festival. It's such a wonderful community event, and it's really exciting that there's so many other activities happening. And in terms of the film, please do follow the film. Biasfilm.com is our website. You can definitely, and please do follow us on Facebook and Twitter and all of the social media,
website,
all those things. And we are going to be launching an educational screening campaign sometime in the course of the next year. Obviously, there's a lot in the film that you really want to dig a little bit deeper.
Yes,
And it raises a lot of questions, as you said, that students can really look at from a number of different angles. And we're very, very excited. We have worked on a very in-depth classroom guide with some of the experts that you see in the film. So keep an eye on our website for that as well.
All right. Well, thanks for being here with us, Christy. We really appreciate this film, and it's very eye-opening. And good luck with it. I look forward to hearing about the screening later.
Thank you so much.
All right, and stay tuned, everyone. We'll be back very shortly with another filmmaker.